Good evening and welcome to another edition of the KXCV KNWT Bearcat Coaches Show. We are broadcasting live from Carson Sports Grill in downtown Maryville. Alongside Matt Tritton, I'm Sean Coffey. Also helping behind the scenes, Ryan Elliott, along with Jenny James. We've got a good show on hand tonight. We'll be talking football and basketball. As the head coach of the Bearcat men's basketball team, Ben McCollum, will be joining us. As head football coach Rich Wright and linebacker off his squad, Ben Altoff. That's all coming up during our program this evening. Matt Tritton, you had a chance to do a little traveling over this past weekend, head out to North Carolina and broadcast the Duke and Northwest men's basketball game out there a week ago. Just talk a little bit about just your impressions of the way that entire week went for the Bearcat men's basketball team.
I think it went off without a hitch, and I think it ended up with a lot of positives, really, for Northwest Missouri State all around. With the team traveling out on Wednesday, the chance to go out and get the full experience, have some practices there at Cameron Indoor Stadium, acclimate themselves to the atmosphere. Even had a day where they went to Chapel Hill and got to tour North Carolina's facilities and see that. And then, of course, play against a very good Division I men's basketball team. And other than the fact that shots wouldn't fall, they really didn't play that poorly on the night. The Bearcats did a good job of holding their own and ended up falling by 33 points. But I think there were a lot of positives for Ben McCollum to take away from that basketball game. But Coach K talked about it with John Jasinski leading up to it and into ACC Media Day that it's a chance to extend the Division II championship celebration for this team. That such a great year for Northwest Missouri State, and a chance to take that on a little bit into the 2017-2018 season. And I think the Bearcats really took advantage of that by enjoying themselves, building some team camaraderie, especially with some of the new guys, a couple freshmen to transfer into the program as well. So overall, a great trip. And anytime you get to see Cameron Indoor Stadium and just such a historic building, a historic coach like Mike Krzyzewski there. Overall, a great trip, and the Bearcats able to kind of turn their focus and get ready for the regular season.
I think one of the nice things about it, too, was, for the most part, an experienced team that took part in that national championship a year ago, and a lot of those guys still had a chance to enjoy the experience last weekend.
Yeah, so often in this game that Duke's built up that's kind of turning into tradition to where they play the Division II national champ, you see the best players from that previous team, some of the big contributors, graduate and then not able to make it out and really experience it the next year. So then you have some new guys taking that part, which is great, but it's kind of lost on some of those other guys. Whereas this season we see, Justin Pitts, Chris Abu and Dow, Xavier Kurth, Ryan Welty, guys like that were such big contributors to a national championship team, get to carry that over and take part and play at Duke. And even some of the guys that graduated. Anthony Woods is back as a student assistant. Zach Schneider, the MIAA's all-time leading three-point shooter, back as a graduate assistant. Devontae Mosby not able to make it since he's with the football team now and pursuing another ring, which is great for him. But a good opportunity for these guys that were such big contributors for that team to get to go and really experience Duke for what it is.
Tell you what, it was a big week as well for Chris and Dell, wasn't it?
It was. Got to celebrate the birth of his first child, a daughter. I believe she came on Thursday, and then he turned around, flew out there, met with the team on Friday, and took off and was in that basketball game. So one of the biggest weeks of his life, to say the least, to be able to participate in that game as well as the birth of his child. And just very cool for him to be able to experience both. And I had a chance to catch him before the basketball game and just ask him about it a little bit. And you could see he was excited and really happy to have her here and, healthy and the birth went well. I did give him the forewarning that next few months as a first-time dad and a baby, it's not going to be easy. But he said he's up for the challenge, knows it's not going to be easy, but we'll talk to him maybe in January and kind of see how he's standing.
Yeah, you've got a few months on him in that regard, I think. So
no sleep at all. But you know what? He'll be all right. Man, heck of a senior year for Chris Abu and Dow, isn't it?
Oh, no doubt about that. And then I remember continue to talk a little basketball here about a couple of hours from now at 8 o'clock over Bearcat Arena. An opportunity for fans here to get a chance to see both the men's and women's teams as the annual basketball bash will be taking place. A lot of things going on around that, and a chance to see both teams dance a little bit, which is sometimes not very pretty, but especially on the men's side. But anyway, it's always a fun evening and a good way to tip off the season and a chance to have fans kind kind of got a chance to meet some of the new players that are involved with both of those programs.
You know, one thing I keep petitioning is to try to get the voice of the Bearcats, John Coffey, to get out and dance with the teams. And it hasn't happened just yet. Maybe someday, but, it is a good opportunity to see the teams and see them showcase for the first time and what they're made of and the personalities of everybody. And, Coach K said it after Northwest played Duke that he could clearly see the talent and the coaching, and he expects this team to push for another national championship. So a good opportunity to see this team a little bit early before getting things started on down the line. And same thing for the women's basketball team coming off of a tough year last year. When you look at them, 9-18 overall, 4-15 in the MIAA, but a lot of young players got good experience. They've got some definite talent coming in with some transfer players as well, some very impactful freshmen. So good chance to kind of get a scope of what the winter and spring will hold for these basketball teams tonight.
And as far as football goes, a tough loss last week to Pittsburgh State down in Pittsburgh, Kansas. One of those games where things just didn't quite go as anticipated or hoped for, but still a heck of a season so far, and a big game coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, you just got to turn the page and look toward Fort Hays State. That's during a 38-game winning streak. I think that's what Northwest did so well, was what happened the Saturday before, the Thursday before at the start of the year. You just kind of forget about it and go on, whether that was a win or if it happens to be a loss. And so they're so good at turning the page and kind of forgetting about it. And I think that's one thing that we need to kind of keep in perspective, too, is just how lucky we are at Northwest to be able to see such a dominating program to where we have the chance to see not only 15-0, but 38-0. I mean, that's just ridiculous to think, almost three straight regular seasons of undefeated play. So, yeah, it's disappointing. They're 8-1, but this is a team still in the thick of it with the playoff race. You can go out and beat an undefeated Fort Hays State team and jump back up in the region rankings, and still a chance to compete for an MIAA championship. So everything Northwest has been playing for all year, it's still out in front of them, even though they had a tough game at Pittsburgh last week.
Well, I tell you, it's, when you think about it, the last loss back in the end of 2014 against Minnesota Duluth in the playoffs there, and that's just a heck of a run and something that is very tough to do.
You're exactly right, and you think back to that football game and playing in late November in Minnesota, and it really wasn't too cold. And that was a game that I think if Matt Longacre stays healthy, he might go ahead and win that game, win a national championship. Things didn't break that way, and with the Pittsburgh State loss just last weekend, a lot of things had to go right for the Gorillas to be able to hold off Northwest and pull that one out. So even though things don't go your way, they were still right there, and I expect them to kind of put things together. And I'm guessing when Coach Wright gets here, he'll say it's been a pretty spirited week of practice. We'll take a break. Be back to talk Bearcat basketball with head coach Ben McCollum here on KXCV KRNW.
Welcome back to the KXCV KRNW Bearcat Coaches Show, again broadcasting live from Carson Sports Grill in downtown Maryville, joined now by the head coach of the Bearcat men's basketball program, Ben McCollum. Ben, good to have you with us. We got another season rolling up here.
Yeah, great to be here, John. I think it looks like Matt got demoted. Isn't allowed to give me interviews. He's not even paying attention. No, it's great to be here, John. Good to hear your voice again.
Oh, it is good. I tell you what, coming off that trip to Duke, I understand you had a chance to sit down with Coach Jasewski for a little while Friday afternoon. What type of advice did you give him about coaching?
Yeah, I got him straight. I sat with him for about a half hour, and they called me out a shoot around and said, Coach Jasewski would like to meet with you. And, like, okay. So got to go back there, and you meet him, and it's interesting. He's obviously, when you see him on TV, he seems just completely unapproachable and obviously somewhat big time. And you meet him, and he really comes down to your level and talks to you like you belong in the conversation. And he was great about that. The thing he wanted to meet with me was the national anthem. Obviously, there's a lot going around about the kneeling and whatnot. And so what they did was just wore equality shirts and had the Pledge of Allegiance on the back, and he wanted to make sure that was okay with me. And I said, yeah, that's fine. And then we obviously moved on to other conversations, and I was able to ask him some questions. And he's pretty high level thinker. I mean, he sits there and he thinks through everything that he says, and he spent a lot of time with me, which I really appreciate.
Talking with Matt and talking with Mel as well here tonight, just about the entire trip and just how well Northwest Missouri State was treated on that entire trip out to Duke.
Absolutely. It was first class. We went to North Carolina too and toured that, that was a first-class environment. Duke was, we got to practice at Cameron Indoor twice, shoot around once, and then play the game. I mean, that's as cool of an experience as our kids are probably going to have, and outside of, obviously winning the national title. But, yeah, it was fun. They treated us great. Really, hopefully we helped them get better. Hopefully we exposed a few things, and, they improved because they played us.
And how did that game help Northwest get better as well?
Well, boy, early on I thought we got the shots that we wanted. Even looking back on film, I was like, boy, maybe back on film we actually got considerably better shots than they got. The problem is they're 6'11", and I looked at the tip, so we had a picture of the tip ball. Brett's pretty athletic. Oh, he goes up for the tip. His hand is at that guy's armpits, and those guys' arms are like, they're 5 feet long. So he's about 4 feet above him. So I thought we got the shots that we wanted. I thought that they exposed some things in regards to our transition defense where if you don't go at 100% and absolutely sprint, they're going to beat you up the floor because they are that much more athletic. And so those kind of things. So now when we say transition defense in practice, it's sprint like you're playing Duke. Box out like you're playing Duke. Because if you don't do that against them, they're so much more athletic and so much more physically gifted that they'll expose it.
Well, you're a week away from opening up the regular season down in St. Joseph with Upper Iowa. Just talk about things you want to do between now and tip-off time Friday afternoon.
Well, we need to have good practices. We hadn't had great practices this year, and I think a lot of that is you have to manufacture some of that hunger that you had last year, where it was pretty easy last year to get them motivated. Now this year you have to work for it a little bit more, and that's okay. Today we had a great practice, but outside of that, just continue to gel, continue to flow offensively, and then defensively, it's a lot about the details defensively. I think that's what we're missing, where we don't want to finish plays defensively, don't want to make that extra rotation, don't want to make that extra box out, don't want to get that extra loose ball. Just a lot of detail stuff that we need to improve on and continue to grow with.
Well, an hour away from the basketball bash over at Bearcat Arena. Let's just talk about that event. And it's always kind of a fun way for the fans to get a chance to see this year's men's and women's basketball teams, and kind of a good opportunity to unveil the teams for the fans. Yeah,
the big thing for us in the Bearcat bash is to win the dance competition. I think we've lost it for 2 straight years. Last year, I really felt like our guys danced better.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I
think kind of got jobbed by the crowd there.
And then the crowd cheers, and I swear the girls bring their own crowd to cheer for them. And so I was pretty disappointed last year. We ran for a couple hours, the next day because we lost it. But, that's the most important part. I think this year, we've worked on it a little bit more, the dance. Our guys did, and I don't know if that's going to be a problem or not, because part of them being funny is that they have no idea what they're doing. I think this year they actually have an idea, so it might be horrible. But,
oh, man.
But we'll see. And then the lip sync, that'll be good. And I think you're getting out there and doing a dance this year, I heard.
Well, that's what Matt's been saying. I don't think that's in the cards here tonight.
We'll pull rank and make Matt get out there.
Well, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Now, how bad would it be to have one of you guys turn an ankle during this dance contest?
That would be bad. Let's knock on wood, John. Let's put some bubble wrap around the little guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be a lot of fun. Season starting in another week, and hopefully we'll be back and have another fun season like last year.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it'll be – it's a challenge, I think, just from a coaching perspective, from our seniors' perspective, just being able to lead and create that hunger. It's going to be one of our biggest challenges, and hopefully we're up for it. And, again, obviously we schedule very difficult where we got Upper Iowa, Northern State. Truman State made the national tournament. Metro State is always good. Lincoln Memorial is number 3 in the country. So we schedule pretty difficult this year as usual, and should be a fun pre-conference.
That schedule, though, tends to pay off, don't you think, in the end, by playing that type of schedule?
I think so. I think it exposes you. I think you get better because of it. I don't know. I guess early on we played an easy schedule because I felt like we needed to build our confidence. And then once we started to get where we had returners and we started to be pretty good, I've always felt like let's play some people. Let's see what happens and compete against the best. And, that's what we've done.
All right, well, Ben, thanks a lot for being with us.
Thanks a lot, John.
That's the head coach of the Bearcat men's basketball team, Ben McCullum. We'll be back and continue on from the Carson Sports Grill in downtown Maryville on the KXCV KNW Bearcat Coaches Show right after this timeout. Welcome back to the KXCV KNW Bearcat Coaches Show. We're broadcasting live from Carson Sports Grill in downtown Maryville. And the head coach of the Bearcat football team, Rich Wright, joins us. And Rich, good to have you with us here on the show tonight.
Hey, thanks. Good to be here.
Coach, talk about Pittsburgh State and going there and obviously a tough loss, but what you take away from that football game moving forward?
Yeah, I think you take a lot of things. It was just what was frustrating is I felt like, at the end of the day, when that final, the final ticks went off the clock and it became, apparent that we weren't going to win that thing, it kind of set in, you know what I mean? And it was hard because we felt like it's one thing when you lose a football game when you feel like you played your best game, when you did everything that you could and you came up short. And I think as a player, as a coach, you can live with that. And the tough thing about that one last Saturday was we obviously didn't feel like we played to our capability on either side of the football. And we're just disappointed. And so what you do to take away from that, and I said it on last week's radio show, probably my greatest growth as an individual in my life has occurred when I've done things wrong. And it forces you to look in the mirror. It forces you to look at yourself and how do we correct things and how do we do things better moving forward. And I think collectively as a program we did that this week.
When you look at that game offensively, it just seemed like at various points of the game, you're maybe one or two plays that if could have converted on at different points of that ball game, it would have made a huge difference as far as momentum in that game.
Yeah, it did. At times we look good, but that's kind of been a little bit indicative of who we've been on that side of the ball. I mean, we're moving the ball at times, but, before where we weren't converting, and getting it into points, this last week they turned into turnovers. And you've heard me repeatedly, on here that, you can win with defense, but you can't win with defense turning the football over. And you just sooner or later those possessions are going to bite you in the butt, and they did for us last week. And I just think it was a case of some of our guys trying to do too much at times, trying to, make a big play and instead of just staying within the system. And it's just, it's unfortunate, but you learn from it.
How do you take this to where you use it as motivation, refocus guys, and at the same time you kind of do what Northwest does best and kind of put last week behind you and focus on the next game?
It's the nice part about kind of how we approach everything, whether we win or whether we lose. It's really on a game-by-game basis. We don't get too high and we don't get too low, or try not to. I wanted this one to fester in us a little bit, though. I let that thing linger all through Sunday and even into Monday a little bit. And then we said, okay, it's time to flush it. It's time to move on. Let's get prepared for Hayes. And we had a fantastic week of practice. So,
does it feel like the MIAA just continues to get better and better? You see as Central Missouri, Washburns, those teams kind of hanging around. Emporia State's rose the last few years, and now you see Fort Hays 2, number 6 in the nation.
I think it's just indicative of the quality of our league. It always seems like, Western was up for a while. Washburn was really strong for a while. Pittsburgh State, obviously historically has always been a really good program. And so, again, it's just that, you look at Central Oklahoma last week, and we talked about some of the things that they could do, and they turned around and beat Central Missouri last week. I mean, it's the quality of competition in the MIAA is second to none, in my opinion.
I think that's what really makes the run Northwest has been on through this year is even more meaningful, just the type of teams you've had to play in, and you still maintain that level of success.
Yeah, it's difficult when the bullseye's on your back every week, it's not easy to do, and for several years we've made it look easy, but trust me, it's a lot more difficult than it appears.
And number 1 versus number 5 in the regional rankings as far as going into this football game. Do you guys glance at that at all, or at what point do you kind of come around and say, all right, this is how the playoffs are going to break down if it ended today?
Honestly, we don't even look at it, because it's really going to play itself out. It's based on what we do now. Once again, we're still in a position, we're very fortunate that in the sense that we're still in a position to control our own destiny moving forward. We got to focus on what we've got to do. We've got to win out. We got to win this week. We got to win next week. And then wherever they seed us is where they seed us, and we'll either be at home or we'll go on the road and play whomever they tell us to play. Once you get to that point, that's where you want to be. And so we really don't look at those regional rankings until the last week, and it gets done, and we figure out where we want to go play. But, the focus of the attention, if you're doing it right now, just needs to be solely on Fort Hays.
And what about Fort Hays? What are you seeing out of them?
Just a really solid football team. I think one of the things that impressed me when I was watching them on their offensive side is that they do a really good job of distributing the ball to a lot of people. They have 2 quality backs. They've got 2 good outside receivers. They've got a good tight end. They've got a good inside slot receiver. And the quarterback gets rid of the ball and distributes it to all of them. So it's difficult to take one thing away. He's been very efficient with the football. They play, he gets rid of the ball quickly. He doesn't hang on to it long. He doesn't take chances with the ball, so they don't turn it over a lot. And then that makes them tough. Flip it over on the other side, and defensively, they have a really good interior defensive lineman who really he moves the inside of the front, and he's difficult to navigate. We're going to have to play well. They're fast on level 2. They're built. Chris talked to me a little bit about things last year, and he loved Jacob Volstead. And one of the things he talked about was wanting to get faster at his linebacker positions, and he looks like he's upgraded in that way. They blitz a lot on 3rd and medium, don't blitz a lot on 3rd and long. Try and keep things in front of them. Again, philosophically kind of like us in the sense that they're trying not to give up explosive plays and make you nickel and dime and earn everything that you get.
Offensively, obviously, we've seen Central Missouri, Central Oklahoma, some high-powered offenses in the MIAA. Is this as balanced as they come, do you think, your opponent-wise?
That's a great question. I think that they're similar to Central Missouri. I think Central Missouri statistically is running the ball really well, too, this year. They've got 2 backs instead of the 1, but the difference there is Central's quarterback is really mobile and very much a threat, whereas, Hayes' kid is more of a pocket-style kid. But I'd make a comparison to Central, as far as what I see out of them offensively, because I think Central does a pretty good job doing those things as well, utilizing their tight end, utilizing their receivers, and so I think that's a good comparison.
Final regular season home game of the year, Senior Day, and what's that mean to the program?
It's a special time for us. I mean, it's saying goodbye to a group of kids that has had a huge impact on our university and our football program. They've done a fantastic job for leading this year. And, really proud of their efforts all season long. And so, obviously you want to, right now we only know that we've got one last game in Bearcat Stadium, and that'll be this Saturday. Hopefully there'll be more, but, we don't control that right now. So we've got to seize every ounce of that 3 or 4 hours on Saturday and enjoy the heck out of it together. And we plan on doing that. And, the other thing I'd probably be remiss if I didn't mention is we're gonna do something to honor one of our other seniors. Nick Turner would have been in this class, and he was a pretty significant part of our football program, and in the hearts of our senior class. And so we're gonna do some stuff to honor him on Saturday as well.
All right, well, Rich, thanks a lot for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
For Matt Tritton, and also behind the scenes, Jenny James and Ryan Elliott helping out. I'm John Coffey, and so long from Carson's.